I feel unhappy, I feel so sad. I lost the best friend I ever had. She was my woman, I loved her so. But it's too late now, I let her go. I'm going through changes.
I don't believe that one drum sound fits everything, so I don't believe that one drum sound is appropriate to use on every single song. So that means you have to be able to navigate pretty quickly and get some tones that you want, but I'll show you the things that I go to that are tried and true that I've found success with. Once I'm happy with my performance and I'm ready to start setting up my tones, I work on 3 tracks. The overhead tracks of the center, the right, and the left. So I will cut everything else out, bring the faders down to 0, and I will start working on those 3 because a big overhead sound is where the basis of your drums should go from. So I usually, and this is pretty par for the course, you can see that my overhead right and left are about 6 dB down, and my overhead center is almost 2 dB down. I usually have my center as the higher of the 3. I usually treat these the same, and then the center I'll usually treat a little bit differently. A lot of times on the center channel is I'll throw a gain. This is a neat little trick. To get to gain, it's utility, gain, and then you use mono or stereo. You can go stereo if it's a stereo track. The only thing I use a gain for is to invert. I will invert the phase on that one a lot of times. It just kind of helps it pop a little bit. I didn't end up doing that in this song, but a lot of times I will, because you can really highly change the sound if you mess with the center overhead versus the 2 outside overheads. So I pan the overheads. So the right's panned all the way to the right, the left's panned all the way to the left, the center is straight up and down. The first tweak I will make is I will compress them. So I'll find a compressor I like. Drum room. Yep, so I did drum room for all 3, and then I did some 2BQs and some channel EQs. The 2BQs I really like. So this is just the overhead, so when you pull down, you go down to drum mono preset, or dual mono presets, drums that you can see that they have these little arrows. So I go to overheads here, but I have a couple of choices with overheads. Here I went to the regular overheads. On these, I went to, nope, I did those overheads too. Usually I change those. Then I send them to a bus. I always use a bus to use for reverbs specifically, because these channels will go to the output, but the bus will pick up some of the signal, color some of the signal, and send that as well. And you can control how much of that signal gets colored and sent by these dials here. You can tell for this bus I have -12 decibels, -11, -11. So that's how much signal is going to the bus. I labeled it overhead bus. There I have a chroma verb. It's a small reflection, which is a small, short reverb. It's not a big, long as if you're in a cavern. It's more a really short as if you're in a bathroom, if you have a small bathroom like I do. And then after that, the overhead bus goes to a 2BQ, and that's where I put the deep overheads. I remember this now. So then I'll play through, I'll be happy with that, and then I'll start adding the primary instruments. Once I have my overhead where I want it, I'll start slowly putting in a little bit of kick until I can hear that thump where I want it, a little bit of snare, same thing. The rack, which means the tom-toms, and the floor tom will do the same thing. And this is pretty typically what happens. I'm highly dependent on the overhead signal to make my sound, and then I add a little bit of kick just to flavor that kick up, to kind of tighten it up a little bit from the overhead sound. The hottest one would be the snare, because I feel that's really the driving instrument of the drums. So usually that's what will happen. I'll never go to 0. 2 is pretty hot for a snare signal. -7 is about right for kick. And then look at my racks. Way down there. And don't forget, pan your tom-toms, because they're not sitting right in the center. Your toms don't sit in the center. Your toms go, you have a small tom that's over to the drummer's left-hand side. You have a middle tom-tom that's a little bit over to the drummer's right-hand side, and then you have a big floor tom that's way over to the drummer's left or right hand side. And you can see that's kind of where they sit. I like to set my drums up as if I was the drummer listening to the performance. Some people like to go opposite this, which means they would put this one plus 25 on this side, negative 19 on this side, negative 44 on this side, because they want to hear as if they were listening to a drummer standing in front of the kick drum. So that means everything would be opposite. Depends on what you want. I like doing mine this way. I compress everything, every single channel, but every single channel has a different compressor. So rock kick for the kick drum, snare top for the snare drum, and each one of these in Logic Pro, I'll just pull down drums, boom, pick the one I like, and make sure you go through every single one of them because they all are different. The tube EQ, which is new, I always like to put that on something. That's right, I put that on the overheads. Channel EQs I don't like to use a ton. My belief is if your drums sound that bad, you need to tune your drums. Now when you go through, you can hear exactly what you got. What I will say, what I tend to do is I tend to put reverbs, everything up a little bit too hot, a little bit too high, because I fall in love with the reverb. I think it sounds really cool. And then I'll go to bed, my ears will rest. I'll start mixing in guitar or bass or something, and I'll go, whoa, that's way over the top, and I'll end up bringing everything back. So have some patience with it. Know that you're not going to set up, once you do your scratch track and you do your drum track, you're not going to like get your drum setup done and then never ever touch it again. I've never done that ever in my life. When you listen through, you can kind of see the drum tone that I got. I hope you like it. And just remember that this is the drum tone that I got for this particular song. The song's available on YouTube, by the way, so you can really hear what the entire thing sounds like together. Of course, you'll hear pretty close to what we got as we keep moving along in this Logic Pro class series. Let's listen to this drum sound for a little bit.